Honourable Attorney General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to just correct something on page 9 of the report in the conclusion. Just a minor correction. It says in the second line, and commended the position of AFL since 2016 has been a busy year for the airline. It's actually the airport, not the airline. That should be corrected just in case. I think some people are getting confused, perhaps that's why he's mentioned airline and they start talking about airlines. Mr. Speaker, sir, just very quickly, the reality of the matter is that none of the airports in Fiji, except Nadi, makes a profit. All of the airports outside of Nadi all make losses. And in fact, the amount of capital expenditure for the outer islands was 1.9 million in 2016. The net operating loss was 2.5 million. So in other words, the AFL put in 4.5 million. In 2017, the capital expenditure was 8.5 million. The net operating loss was 2.5 million. The amount of money therefore put in was 11.1 million. 2018, AFL has put in 12.9 million into the outer islands, and a net operating loss was 6 million, total input of $18 million. So it is incorrect and absolutely false to actually say no money has actually been put into the outer islands. The reality, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the submissions by the opposition can only be termed as obscurantism, which is essentially trying to obfuscate the facts deliberately. Let me just very quickly highlight, Mr. Speaker, sir, there's a number of points that have been made, unfortunately, right from the cleanliness of the toilets to all other standards at the airport. The reality of the matter is that when Fiji Airports was given the award, indeed the certification for being one of the top 10 airports in the world, and indeed they received green certification, Mr. Speaker, sir, these international awards don't come willy-nilly. They actually look at the entire operations of the airport, look at the infrastructure, they look at, for example, the manner in which water is dispensed, soap is dispensed, how you dry your hands, to cleanliness, all sorts of things is actually measured, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, of course, the executive chairman is no longer the executive chairman. He's actually the acting CEO. He, like everybody else, has to go through a normal application process. I understand that the board has appointed an outside company to actually engage with all the applicants, and they'll be going through that process, and we are yet to receive a recommendation by the board. And of course, we have another member that's been added to the board, who's a representative of the Marriott Group of Hotels. He's now on the board, and we hope to get more people on the board. However, the size does not in any way affect the transparency, as we all know, because it is a limited liability company. And I urge the honourable members of the opposition to go and read the Companies Act, because the Companies Act actually will highlight to you that irrespective of whether a person is a member of or affiliated to a political party, that they have a fiduciary duty to the company. And in fact, it is a criminal act if you breach that fiduciary duty, because the Companies Act actually has been, as we know, we've got a new Companies Act, the old one has been repealed, and there are very high level standards and indeed onerous requirements by anybody that's a board member, in particular sitting in a limited liability company, even in a statutory body or even a trust, where they're caught by this particular provision in the Companies Act. So it is trite to bring in and say, oh, this is one director, and obviously they're talking about Ratu William Nivere, that he's a member or office holder of a political party. It is immaterial. It is immaterial because the law says that if Ratu William Nivere actually in any way breached his fiduciary duty to AFL, he'll be criminally responsible and culpable. So again, Mr. Speaker, so, this kind of sort of, obscurantism that comes along. I mean, we've got, for example, saying maybe the government is paying the top-up salary. No, government does not pay any top-up salary for anybody. Mr. Speaker, so again, there was talk about, this is the way Fiji is, and let's make Fiji, the milkshake price maybe should be kept to 50 cents, like the days when we were, I mean, they didn't say that, but maybe that's what they're meaning. But the reality, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that on one hand, you want the price of milkshake and fish and chips to be lower at the airport, but you want 21st century facilities at the airport. You want 21st century facilities in all of Fiji. Money does not grow on trees. You have to be commercially astute. You have to be commercially astute. You have to be aware of the commercial realities. Limited liability companies need to be able to fund their own operations. This is how you build strong institutions. In the same way, as we have said, the old model, let me give an example, that, FEA, now EFL, used to keep the cost of tariff way down, so essentially low-income people could afford it. But now the right tariffs apply, and if government wants the low-income people to get lower tariff rates, we subsidize EFL. Yes. We subsidize EFL. So EFL then does not come to us for government guarantee, putting pressure on taxpayers. That's how you run a modern-day government and modern-day company. They don't get it, Mr. Speaker, sir. They simply don't get it. Honorable, Tuisawau talked about ATS and what's going to happen to ATS and threats and all that. Mr. Speaker, sir, I feel like I'm sometimes in class 101. If Fiji Airways currently does not have catering services, if Fiji Airways currently does not have luggage handling, Mr. Speaker, sir, obviously if they get into that business, they'll be hiring people. They will create jobs. Some of the people at ATS who are the good workers may actually go across. The reality is that you don't hold on to something when it's not run professionally. If they want to lift the game, they need to become professional. It's very simple. We have to compete in the 21st century, otherwise we will get left behind. They really don't think. They think the board is going to do training. What utter nonsense, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, talked about Korean Airways, that, Korean Airways is going, therefore we don't have any other international airline flying to Fiji. Of course, we now have Qantas flying, we have Virgin, we have Air New Zealand, we have Air Cal, we have Solomon Islands. But what about our own national carrier? We're now flying to North Asia. We fly to Narita. We fly to Hong Kong. The Korean Airways decision to pull out of Fiji is their own commercial decision. Those people who know about airlines, those people who know in-depth knowledge about airlines will tell you that most international airlines, if you look at the big ones, like the Koreans and the Emirates and the Etihads and what have you, British Airways, they have a permutation, what they call 357. In other words, it is almost lucrative if you do 3 times a week to a destination. It's even better if you do 5 times a week to a destination. The best is 7 times. Of course, you can have double dailies too. Korean Airways, of course, Honorable Prime Minister has had discussions with the chair and various other people in the past. They in fact told us many years ago that there was a particular affinity. The chair at that point in time had an affinity with Fiji. The family liked to come to Fiji for holiday. They kept it going. But from a commercial perspective, it is not viable for them. There's been a change in management. Of course, they have now made their commercial decision. And we have to respect that. We're not going to go and subsidize. Do you know how much Cook Islands subsidize Air New Zealand? Just for Air New Zealand to fly to Cook Islands, they pay them $15 million a year. So Air New Zealand can actually come through the Cooks. We don't have a similar situation, nor do we want to get into that situation. We want our national airline to be strong. We of course want Korean Airways to come, but if Korean Airways has made a decision not to come, then we respect that. But let's be positive. Stop being so negative and so much under siege. Let's be positive. Narita is only probably 1 hour, hour and a half away from Seoul, or maybe 2 hours. We should be pushing people who want to come through North Asia to come through Narita, to use Fiji Airways. Narita is also actually a hub in its own right. Many people come from North America to Narita and cut across to Europe. That's what they do. We've got the connectivity now. Why are we downplaying that? Mr. Speaker, sir, again, and I want to quote, Honorable Ngawaka said that, he held up some lease document. I don't know what it is. I don't know how he procured that lease document, who gave it to him, whether he found it on the internet, whatever it is. He is now talking about this statement. In the hand side, he said, it could be, I said, Fiji Airways is always a family of aircraft known as A330. It has the A330, A300. There's a new one in the market called A330 Neo, new engine option. It could do the work of A350, but keeping the platform A330 in place, which would lessen the cost of training of engineering because using the same A330 platform. So why did Fiji Airways react this manner to buy something that Singapore Airlines did not want? Completely incorrect. A statement regarding that. I'll tell you what it is. This is a problem they don't ask. There were two A350s available that one airline actually did not want to take up. When we made the decision to buy the A350, they said these two slots are now available because the time lag to wait after you order, it takes years. So we are lucky to get that aircraft. Singapore Airlines did not reject A350. This is what the statement implies. If you just simply Google and Google and do Singapore Airlines A350, you see how much Singapore Airlines is actually pushing A350. In fact, they have got, and I stand to be corrected, approximately 60 A350s on order. 60 A350s on order. Only from the Google search. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the statement that was made is incorrect. So how can we rely on a person who's made this kind of obscurantism and then to comment about, airlines and aircraft and what have you? Mr. Speaker, sir, again, I wanted to comment on saying that, again, this is so trite and I kind of feel, intellectually so maligned that I have to respond to these kind of comments. That the people who were, filling in the coffers for Fiji First are those who got the concession. No, Moti Bhai is a company. Tapuz is a company. Pacific Destination, Rosie Tours, they're all companies. They all have a concession at Fiji, the airport. No company can donate to any political party unless you've been receiving donations from companies. We certainly don't get donations from companies, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. The reality is, again, they also fail to mention that the staff of AFL in the past few years have received enormous pay increases. The air traffic controllers, the people in the HR divisions, everybody have received huge pay rises. Air traffic controllers are about 63% in the past 4 years, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, and again, they have not commented on how AFL actually has been investing in its staff. They now receive bonuses. They have specific career paths. And these are young Fijians, Mr. Speaker, sir. So again, there's been, no mention about that. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Tuisawau said he was on the board and there's a master plan, etc. Mr. Speaker, sir, I actually went to the site when the airport, which is actually a brownfield site, was being renovated. It was horrendous. Everybody knows about that. They had floor sizes, different levels, different heights, sewer system underneath the departure area. All sorts of shenanigans were there. But more importantly also, Mr. Speaker, sir, the land around the airport. Master plan is not only about the building structure. We now have within the AFL precincts, land has been given away through political interference when AFL board was asked to give away leases that AFL had to individual private companies. And Mr. Speaker said, look, this is not something peculiar only after 2002. It used to happen before. Part of Nasoso, where there's an area called Garnville or something, Garnville, Q-A-N, that comes from Qantas. 2 or 3 pilots of Qantas were given away land. Another pilot who used to fly Fiji Airways was given away land. You have now land with the CAF land on the other side, the seaside. There are private investors there now who were given land by CAF. At that time, CAF was the holding company. Honorable Leader of Opposition may know, some of those land was actually given away leases in that time. That's what you that's what you talk about master plan. Now is the master plan for AFL, Fiji Airports, to now have another runway. We have to go back and acquire these lands at the cost of AFL. So when we talk about master plan, Mr. Speaker, sir, you have to look at the entire precinct of the airport. Mr. Speaker, sir, of course, as part of the development, you know that the AFL has recently leased land to Fiji Airways in building up the Aviation Academy. What a wonderful thing. This is what you call building resilience into your systems. Having a long-term strategic plan where our pilots no longer have to fly to Singapore, more cost to Fiji Airways. They can actually do their simulation training in Fiji, but more importantly also, we'll be getting pilots from other countries to come and do the simulation training in Fiji. Generates revenue for us. This is called strategic thinking, and AFL actually have developed a relationship with Fiji Airways in that respect. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, I'd like to make some comments regarding the overall need. Honourable Tuisao, again, you know, he always likes to say that previous governments built the airports and what are we going on about? Yes, it's true. Array, let me finish, man. Come on. Of course they build the airports. Of course they build the airports. Nobody has said they didn't build the airports. Of course they build the airports. But doesn't mean we get caught in a time warp. The airport that was built then was great, but now we have to expand. We have to modernize, lengthen. Your ability to adapt and adopt to the 21st century must be quick. Otherwise you get left behind. People will find other destinations. Don't think that everybody is clamoring to come to Fiji, because I can tell you every other single country that wants tourism to be in their country are also marketing. It's not only about having a nice clean beach, which they want the plastics to go onto. It's not only about that, but it's also about the seamless system the moment you land in the airport. It's about having the right infrastructure, about having efficiency, about cleanliness. All those things do matter, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think there's quite a lot of comments have been made in respect of you know, the individuals that have been involved. But I'd like to thank the committee for their work. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the board members of AFL. And more importantly also, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff. And if you look at the staff and the senior who are holding relatively senior management positions, they're generally very young people. These are hard-working, efficient people who are thinking about the future. I'd like to thank them for their partnership, because I have been to the bonus payments, I have been to the staff meetings, and Mr. Speaker, sir, the level of enthusiasm they have is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. This ain't no other option. What a lot of...
Order.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the lot of things that we do, there's no photo ops. You people have absolutely no inclination what happens. This is why today these organizations are doing well. One other point, somebody from the other side said that we still have executive chairs all over the place. No, we don't. There are only 2 executive chair positions that were there. At AFL it's gone. At Fiji Pine it's about to finish too. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, there's no other executive chairman positions. Please point it out to me, unless you've created some state entity that we do not know about. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, once again, I'd like to thank the board. And like we, of course, have now, just to highlight, we need to look at the second stage of the airport in terms of development. The airport is getting now filled up, and we need to obviously grow the airport, and we should all be proud, both of our national carrier and of our international gateway, Nandi Airport through Fiji Airport, Airports Fiji Limited. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Attorney General. I now give the floor to the Chairperson of the Standing Committee.